But let's now take you back to Nasrec, where my colleague Clement Manyatela is standing by with the analyst. Clement, good afternoon. As we come back to you, any idea at this stage when the NEC members are expected to be announced?
Well, Mpo, we're not sure when the results of the NEC are going to be announced. We know that voting has been continuing, and we're expecting that sometime, probably in the next couple of hours or so, that's when the delegates here will know who is part of that 80-member NEC. I've got Siboniso Duma, who is the KZN ANC chairperson, in studio with me now. Mr. Duma, thank you for joining us. Maybe you can give us a quick update as to what's happening inside. Are you done with commissions? How far is the voting?
Afternoon, with your viewers at home. Yes, we are proceeding with the voting. We are also proceeding with reporting inside, but we've just break for lunch right now. We'll be back in an hour's time.
Okay, so from where we're standing, it's around 2 p.m. now. Do you think the president will give that closing address before 6 p.m. or there are chances that it may be just after?
Tentatively, yeah, before 6 it might happen.
All right, let's talk about the results that came out yesterday. As KwaZulu-Natal, you in fact indicated that Zweli Mkhize would be closing this conference today. What went wrong?
I don't think it went wrong. The ANC becomes the victor at the end of the day. You go to a national conference, you contest the space, you identify the material condition, and you actually identify the type of a leader who must lead the society at that particular time. When those views that you had doesn't emerge, you embrace the leadership. You rally behind that leadership. So I think we are there as KwaZulu-Natal, and we are not entitled as the province to be represented in the top 7. I think we are locally on that point, because there is that myth that KwaZulu-Natal must always be in the top 7 or the top 6 in the past.
My understanding is that even before this conference, as KwaZulu-Natal, you just wanted at least to be represented. I mean, as the biggest province in terms of membership in the organization, it just helps if you have someone represented at the top 5. What do you think were the consequences of not being represented in the top 6 in the last 5 years?
Clement, we are not being driven by being a majoritarian per se. KwaZulu-Natal has 2 biggest harbors in Africa, in the continent, in terms of the GDP, in terms of the populace, in terms of voter patterns. We always contribute in the national spectrum to make sure that ANC is in power. ANC becomes the ruling party. So it is always critical that we must always be putting that as a tool of analysis first. I don't think that there's something that went wrong at the level of us identifying our top 7 per se. It was a matter of time and space. You find that those comrades, probably because the incumbent always have an unfair advantage. He's in command of the organization, is always visible. He is also at the helm of driving the state. So I think it was only the process of ensuring that you try and say that probably there is a need for a new pattern, and you identify some imbalances that are currently taking place in the organization. You know that for quite some time, almost for 2 years, we had no SGO because of the suspension of Comrade Isma Khashule and Comrade Jesse Duwademe. So rest in peace, also died in the process. So there were those imbalances in the organization.
So you had an opportunity to be represented in the top 7. You could have supported Mdumiseni Ntuli, who actually received a lot of nominations for the position of Secretary General. If he had your backing, he probably would have emerged as the Secretary General of the ANC. Do you regret not supporting him?
I'm sure you know the culture and the practice of the ANC. You rally behind of what you stood firm on, you garner the support and you advance the support from other provinces. So when you talk about the issue of the type of a leader who is required, when you have candidates and you have agreed, not in principle, that you are going to support certain provinces, you cannot just change on the last time that no, only one people coming from KwaZulu-Natal. That would be selfish. That is political immaturity. So I think we are comfortable that we fielded our candidates, and I think everyone was here witnessed that it was a good battle. And currently the issue of character portrait of victors and vanquished, it's something that must be demystified as well in the organization. We hope and pray that the current leadership is going to ensure that they embrace those who contested them. They will also ensure that the issue of unity is critical for the organization, because the ANC is the ruling party at this point in time. There is a depletion of voters, the parties, in terms of economic outlook in the society. So we are there. We need that urgent change. We need the urgent change in terms of implementation of the resolutions.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the resolutions in a short while. Will you be backing Dumiseni Ntuli now as he avails himself to be the spokesperson of the ANC?
I don't know why we are fixated on that one. The ANC is not yet finished. In fact, we heard about that, and he stated that it was a fake news. He didn't say that he wanted to be a spokesperson. So it would be a premature decision.
He said to me earlier today that he's available for that position, and he thinks he can work well with Fikile Mbalula. So he's going to need the support. So the question is, as KwaZulu-Natal, will you back him?
I think it is critical, the issue of NWC establishment, because you first elect the NWC, then it depends. You still have to lobby other provinces, and we are not arrogant enough that because the NEC is something else, we don't have numbers of determining who becomes the spokesperson only as the province of KwaZulu-Natal. You must talk with a lot of variables, other provinces, other comrades who are in the NEC, then they will decide. So at this point in time, I wouldn't want that as if we'll be driving a certain type of change at certain types of an arena. We're not in charge. We're in charge of KwaZulu-Natal, and we will rally behind the strategic area, because it will be bad when we say that we want Comrade Clement to be this and it doesn't want them. So we are at this point in time saying that the material condition will dictate in the first NEC who is the relevant comrade who must be there. We are glad at this point in time that you've seen a lot of young face. Comrade Mbalula is the former Secretary General, former President of the ANC Youth League. Comrade Marupeni as well served in the Youth League. So there is component of generational mix in the ANC, which is something that we've been saying that in the ANC, if the world is growing young, the continent and our society, the ANC should reflect that. You cannot just have old guard only representing the ANC. Young people are not going to relate. Other people are not going to attribute the fact that we are the leader of the society. We are the leader of them in those strategic areas. Speaking
of a generational mix, the people that you backed as KwaZulu-Natal, I mean, how many of them were young?
There were a lot of young people. In fact, if you go and check the NSA list, because
I'm talking about the top six.
No, in the top seven. In the top seven, you know, as the province, you have to identify one candidate. Then you back other provinces. So it does not reflect well on your astute or the optics, because if those seven are not formalitas, then it reflects you as a province. KwaZulu-Natal, in fact, let us take the issue of provinces. The majority of provinces are formal leaders of the ANC weekly. Go to KwaZulu-Natal, board chair and secretary. Go to Eastern Cape, board chair and secretary. Northern Cape, board chairs and secretary. So the reality is that it is always dawning that the ANC must embrace that type of change and the type of a leader who must lead. We are glad that Comrade Mbax is there and is going to change the outlook at the level of organization, at the level of mobilization. So our people are going to be glad, and they are already stated that they are familiar with his antics, they are familiar with his tactics, they are familiar with his approach of ensuring that you embrace change.
I was listening to Bekitele earlier on saying that he actually thinks that as KZN you deserve it, the fact that you don't have any representation in the top seven, because you have not been united as a province. In fact, he says Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Jacob Zuma, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, even himself as Bekitele and other leaders, Senzo Mkhune, have got to come together and be united as a province. Do you think that's part of the problem, that as KwaZulu-Natal you are not united?
I wouldn't want to locate at KwaZulu-Natal. The ANC is not a monolithic organization. If there are divisions at the level of national, you'll find it at the level of branches. There is a need for ANC. I've already started ensuring that the type of a member that we recruit in the ANC, do we debrief those members? Do we give them umkhabulu? Political classes, induction? Do we embrace the principle of ensuring that they understand the spectre of the society to lead the society? I've even make an example some other day that President Luthuli was in course. was a teacher, a pedagogist, was a farmer, so was a priest as well. You need someone like that who must lead. So the character portrait of the ANC, it must be someone that in the areas that we know Clement, we know Duma. So I think we are at that point in time. The issue of divisions will always be there if we have not we've built a strong organization, which is why the issue of renewal must also embrace thorough change. The type of structures that we elect must be strong enough to lead and command the respect of the society.
But how do you unite the organization when some of the senior leaders of the ANC are doing the opposite? I mean, what the former president Jacob Zuma did on day one, arriving at that time when the president is on stage and the people reacting in that manner, and even what he said ahead of this conference where he was in KZN and asking people, will you allow Cyril Ramaphosa to deliver that political report? Surely those are not actions that demonstrate that someone is interested about uniting the organization.
It's true that the ANC over quite some time, you'll find that you have people who are joining the ANC during the turmoil time, during division. When the divisions are deepening, they will think that the ANC is like that. They don't understand the moral fiber, the DNA analysis of the ANC. So in some instances, you have certain leaders articulating something wrong because in majority have misbehaved in the past. So we must be thorough with that prognosis, analysis of ensuring that the type of a leader must be someone who must be able to work, build, selfless, represent the outlook of the ANC. I think we are there at this point in time. That is why that the type of branches we must have, they must be the agent of change in our community. If there is an issue of service delivery in Alexandra, in Shawelo, at Mtwalume, at Msinga, it must be the ANC branch that must deal with those issues. A stronger branch must
I appreciate your response, Mr. Duma, but you're dodging my question. I'm asking specifically about...
I wouldn't want to personalize the matters. I'm not that type. I'm deliberate.
I don't want you to attack him because I think as part of leadership, especially the provincial leadership, you also need to demonstrate that even when there's a leader who's going off course, you call it out. Whether it's Cyril Ramaphosa, whether it's Jacob Zuma, whether it's Zweli Mkhize, when they do something that contradicts what as a collective ANC you're trying to build, you've got to call it out. So why is it so difficult to say what the former president has done, telling delegates to disrupt the president, is wrong?
In fact, in my response, I've encroached, or there was an embedded element of addressing almost what you asked. Like, for instance, you find a leader, a seasoned cadre of the ANC saying that probably now is the time that the ANC must go out of power. That is out of order. Probably a former leader of the ANC saying that, or former president of the ANC saying that when the president address, don't give any space. Or probably a former leader of the ANC saying that the current president is not doing 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are saying that at a level of principle, there is currently a need for Comrade Matamela, Comrade TM, Comrade Zuma, Comrade Khalima to sit down, because they became the heritage of the ANC. For the mere fact that they are leading, they are number ones, they've been number ones as well. There is a need for them to sit down, because you'll find that their element attributes towards a change. If they say one must happen, one might take place. If they say two must take place. So those are the issues. That is why I'm saying that there is probably a need for us back to basic, create stronger branches, also ensure that people might understand what is the ANC, the proper character portrait of the ANC. So that's what this conference must also achieve.
All right, Siboniso Duma, KZN ANC chairperson, thank you so much for making time for us here on Newzroom Afrika.